I am going to go ahead and definitely get started now and just walk through the process, walk through the steps of, I guess I should not say steps because I don't really like that word. Everybody's journey is different. And that is something that I want to start off with, is that everybody's journey will look a little bit different. Don't expect yours to look like mine or the next person over. There are some general things that we all can do and should be doing when we travel down this path, because it is not something that is like you should take any kind of way, right? You need to really, really focus on what you are doing, because Ifa is a spiritual system. It's a way of life. That's one of the first things that you need to understand about coming into the tradition, because so often people want to join the Ifa tradition, so to speak, and they really don't know what it is and what it is about. And you have to be very, very careful with that dynamic. um, I hope you guys on Instagram are hearing me, or you getting me here. So let me know, guys, in the comments. Can you see me? Can you hear me on IG? So, but moving back to what I was saying, one of the first things I want to talk about along an EFI journey is, number one, educating yourself about what EFI is. Know that it is not just anything, right, that you can just jump into and be okay in. You have to really and truly understand what EFI is. And I mean deep level research, not just going online, excuse me, not just going online and researching a few articles and things like that. Because in my last live stream, I did talk about this particular aspect, that a lot of the information that you do see about EFI, or you learn about Ifá, is actually going to come out of the Caribbean islands when it comes to the online resources. Even a lot of the books and things like that that you learn or you see about Ifa are going to come from other diasporic traditions, and they're not all written by Black people or people of ethnicity, so to speak. So you do want to be mindful about that particular dynamic as well, because it is not something that you want to take lightly, and you don't want to really understand what you're getting yourself into. And it's not to say that the other traditions or the way that they practice or is wrong, but all of it is not like Ifa from Nigeria. So do consider that. Also, there's a lot of spam stuff, especially like nowadays with these books and stuff like that. I see a lot of AI content being like basically put out there, and people are saying this is Ifa, this is the tradition, this is how it's practiced, and things like that, which is not necessarily true. Okay, so you do want to educate yourself thoroughly. I suggest definitely getting books, get going and taking courses, talking to people, but assess that too, right? So whenever you're buying a book or a course or something from somebody, see where that's coming from. Okay, look at the author of the course, the book, etc. Understand their background. Some of them will tell you, like, they came out of Santeria, they came out of Lukumi, they came out of a completely different practice than what you may be considered that you're going into Ifa. And so they're explaining the Ifa tradition from that particular context. And some of them have no background whatsoever in the tradition. They're just an outside observer, somebody who may have read a few books, okay, or watched a few videos or what have you, and then all of a sudden they feel as though they are an expert in it. Okay, so you guys are saying that you can't hear me on Instagram. Sorry about this, because it's a little bit hard to see you guys, especially. Perfect. Thank you for letting me know. So recommendations for resources. I am going to get a little bit deeper into that. To be honest, and it's a really good question. This is something that has been really difficult for me to find, that I feel comfortable with recommending to people. On my website, I do have like the African spirituality resources section. They're not all about the Ifá tradition. Some of it is about other aspects of just African spirituality in general. But honestly, I have not been able to find really solid, good resources that I feel comfortable with recommending with people. There are recommending to people rather. There are a few. I do recommend a lot of the Nigerian movies because they are out of Nigeria, and I will watch them myself, and I will go and ask. I will just like, is this legit? Now everything in them is not 100%. Obviously, you're gonna have your sensational moments because it is a movie. It's for entertainment, but they tend to be more so on par, in my opinion, than some of the books. Not all of the books, some of the books. Where I can find a good reference, I do post that, right? And I am constantly reading, believe it or not. I've consumed quite a few resources on the tradition, and they are just not solid. Unfortunately, they're just not sound options. So these are things that I don't necessarily just automatically recommend to people in that way. Um, but I would say start there. And I know that's like again not the easiest path to travel down. Go on like Facebook. I know a lot of like Ifa priests and priestesses oftentimes have Facebook pages and things like that. And these are the ones I'm referring to, like out of Nigeria. If you want the authentic tradition, there are some in the Americas and throughout the world actually. If you vibe or you resonate with that dynamic, but oftentimes it's going to be a whole lot better for you to have a conversation with someone or to connect with someone who is bringing the truth of the tradition. Start asking questions when you travel down that path. Whenever you're working with someone, definitely, guys, ask questions to see what's going on. And I know that, again, that's not going to be so easy if you don't know, but getting that kind of background in the tradition and getting that understanding through the books and things like that, you can ask some better questions, I feel. So that's number one. Number two, I'm going to say connect with your ancestors, okay? Start an ancestral veneration practice, guys. There are so many ways that you can do this. I have a book, I have a course that takes you through these particular dynamics, but there are so many other resources out there. To be honest, like the basic way that I always say, start with just praying to your ancestors, talking to them, and asking them to lead you to the right resources and guides, and they will. That's exactly what I did in my journey. I asked them, like, show me the way, and they did so. And I'm very, very grateful for the direction that I've gone in. It's not to say that it was perfect by any means, right? It wasn't just okay, ancestors showed me, and I just had this little streamlined experience. Part of that too had to do with me being a child of Ogun, and so I could get anxious and I want to get the things and I want to move forward. So sometimes at points in my journey, I was a little bit anxious, and I went off into a path that I shouldn't have went into, and it wasn't because they were not telling me not to. It's because that's what I wanted, because I wanted to get there quicker. So that's another major thing, is to not be anxious. Okay, don't be so anxious to go down that path. Connect with your ancestors. Also, guys, elevate your ancestors. So start with your ancestral veneration practice, and then begin the process of elevating your ancestors, because that's going to help you on so many different levels when you work with the ancestors that are already here for you, that are going to help you down this path and go down that path in a straight way. And then also, as you start to work and elevate those other ancestors, they're going to be great resources for you as well. Um, you're saying you're having, what is this, Black Girl Doc 24? you're having a hard time finding out, well, I can't connect with a lot of them. What do you mean that you can't connect with them? Like, are you saying like you're trying to reach out and nobody is responding to you, or you can't find the right people to reach out to? Try to move my screen a little bit because it's hard. Big Ashe Ogun, absolutely Ogun. Hey, love him to death, but I got a whole lot of that Ogun inside of me, which can cause some challenges at times. You know, let me do this. Sorry, guys. Okay, you see me looking over here because I need to get to this other screen because I'm having a time seeing the people on Instagram. Okay, you're saying you can't find the right people. I get it. Trust me. Been there, done that. Again, this where your ancestors are going to come in. Absolutely. So when you start to work with your ancestors, they are going to show you the path to the right person or people to work with. I get this all the time with, what we do working with people through Ifá. A lot of people will come and say, you know what, my ancestors led me to you. I said this prayer or I did this ritual and I was like, I want to find the right people for my journey. And they often say they felt like that was because of their ancestral connections leading them to me. And I really appreciate it because actually that's my goal, is to get people who really and truly vibe and resonate with me. Like, we're here to service almost anybody. I'm not gonna say anybody, but we're here to service almost anybody who wants to go down this path. However, we do recognize that we're not for everyone. Like, everyone doesn't vibe with us, and we don't vibe with everyone, because there are people that I have turned away before because it just felt like I wasn't the right person for them. And what we do at the temple out of Nigeria, it just wasn't a good fit. A lot of times that does have to do with people not being truly ready for the journey, okay? And I'm looking on the side because I'm trying to reposition this screen, my other screen, with Instagram because I want to see you guys. Yeah. You're saying it feels like a car salesman trying to sell you something. 100%. Sadly, that's how it's gotten. And this is one of the reasons why I was saying be so careful with that resource dynamic that I was speaking about before, because everybody is not out for your highest and your greatest good. Okay. Some people are there to just make money, and it's not just Ifá. So I'm not trying to by any means to make it seem like this is just people in Ifá that do this. Like, you have this all across the board in any spiritual system. And nobody should be doing it. That's a great point. Like, if you feel like somebody's trying to pressure you into getting something, to buying something, or to working with them, or what have you, I advise you right then to walk away. Okay. When we do Ifá divination, and I'm going to get to that too in more depth. When you get a reading done, yes, it will come with an Evo. It will come with the sacrifice and things like that. That is standard, and it is something that you should definitely seek to do. However, if you can't afford to do it, or if you don't desire to do it, nobody should ever pressure you into that. It's like, you got your reading done. If you just want to walk away for whatever reason after that, you should be free to do so. All right. You're given the information, you make that decision on your own. Yes, there are prices and fees and things like that involved with working with Ifá, more so than you're going to see with the average, Abrahamic tradition, because, you're taught that notion that salvation is free through Jesus. However, even the church, they got bills to pay. That happens, right? So they are collecting money. It's just not in the same way as you see it being like a quid pro quo dynamic with Ifá and some other African traditions. Like, you are going to pay for readings, you are going to pay for icons, and in a lot of cases you might have to pay for education and so forth and so on. But people do that in Christianity as well. Like, they have whole bookstores, dedicated to nothing but Christian books and resources. So you get what you pay for at the end of the day. You want the higher knowledge, you're gonna have to pay for it. But nobody should be pressuring you to do that at all. So I definitely encourage you, if you are feeling pressured in any form or fashion, to walk away from that dynamic, okay? Because that's not a great thing. But again, going back to this dynamic, connecting with your ancestors, elevating your ancestors, and working with them, that is going to help out tremendously. And of course, you have to do your own part as well. Like I was saying with myself, like, yeah, my ancestors were leading me down the path that they were clearly showing me certain things, but I went against the grain at times because I was like, I want it faster. I want to, keep moving. And I felt like, and I did sit for like a year, just studying and learning about the tradition. And I was really anxious to find like a priest or a priestess to work with. And so I sped down that path too soon. And they kept, giving me those lessons till finally it was like, okay, you're gonna either listen or, you're gonna keep suffering. And so once I, gave up and I was like, forget it. If y'all want me to do this, find me someone. Right after that is when I met our Adissa and I started working with him. And then just helping other people even work with him. So yeah, that can be a difficult thing to do. The next thing is to get an Ifá reading. But do not get an Ifá reading until you understand what an Ifá reading is about, what it is meant for. It is not a psychic reading. It's not an intuitive tarot reading or anything like that. And by no means am I against any of those things because I do tarot myself. However, Ifá divination is not the same. And so be mindful of that. Understand when you are going to get your Ifá reading, you are going to get information that is going to help you. It's not just information for the sake of knowing. Anytime you get a Nephi reading, it's going to come with at least one elbow, which is a sacrifice, which means that there are going to be spiritual forces that ask for certain things, usually multiple spirits, right? Could be 4 or 5, and it can cost a significant amount depending on what that looks like for you. For the average reading, typically from our end, I'm seeing rates between $500 to $1,000, sometimes a little bit more, for ritual work only. That is not inclusive of icons and things like that. So it may come up in a reading that you need to, you should get an icon, like that's going to actually help to solidify your journey and bring you to a higher level of connectivity. That's not forced, right? So don't let anybody pressure you into that. And that's like what broke me away from the other Ifá priest that I was working with before, because I oftentimes felt pressure. Like it was like, okay, you should connect with Shango, for instance, or something like that. And I'm like, okay, I received the information, but I wasn't ready to go down that path. And he kept trying to pressure me to go down that path. And I'm like, no, that's not for me right now. And it wasn't that I was against getting an icon, but I was, anytime before I get an icon, I just make sure that that's a decision that I want to take. But going back to what I was saying about pricing, when it does come to icons, they are much more expensive when done right, because there's a lot of things that go into creating an icon. It is not just this it's not just some object. It is a consecrated object. Okay, so it's taken through a ritual process. An animal is sacrificed in that process. Usually they're going to sacrifice like the highest level animal that particular Orisha takes. So a lot of times it's going to be a goat, and goats are expensive to sacrifice. They're expensive to purchase. Not only that, there are other materials and so forth that go into their process, and it's a physical process. So long story short, it does cost money. And with it costing money, you have to be prepared for that as well. So if somebody does recommend like that you get an icon or something like that, I definitely recommend that you take your time and make sure that's for you. And it's not just financially, okay? That's only one component of it. It is also from the perspective of it being something that you're ready to work with. If you don't know a whole lot about the tradition, I don't recommend getting icons right off the bat. All right, take your time. Going back to this stuff of getting an Ifá reading. Take your time, sit to see, did this work out for me the way I desired it to work out? Okay. Sometimes it can take 3 to 6 months, sometimes it can take up to a year for you to see that. I'm not saying waiting a whole year to get, another reading if you still need help with other things. However, I do always recommend, even to people that come to me, get your reading, wait at least a month. I mean, get your elbow, excuse me, wait at least a month and see, what's going, see how you're feeling, see, if this is something that you want to continue to do. If you want to continue with us, you have to make that decision for yourself. So take your time with that aspect of it. Don't be in a rush again to choose somebody or to just jump into like a situation that you're not ready for when it comes to practicing Ifá after you get that reading. The next part is you are going to go ahead and choose an Ifá godparent. So why did I say get the reading before the godparent? Because the reading and the ebo that comes along with it, and also your interaction with that individual, is going to tell you if that person is the right person for you. You want to make sure that the work that they do actually works, right? There's no need to go and get an elbow performed and it's not working for you. It's not just about doing a sacrifice, because the person, the individual, needs to be properly trained and know what they're doing and be effective in their role. And if they're not, like, it's pointless, really and truly pointless for you to just continue down that path with those individuals. So I definitely strongly suggest, taking your time, especially with choosing an Ifá godparent. You may have to like test out a few people before you go down that path. And I will say this, like, don't do it back to back to back, right? Because you go and get an Ifá reading today, for instance, and it comes up with certain ebo that you need to do. Okay, you go ahead and do that ebo. If you go and get an Ifá reading the following week from someone else, pretty much the same ebo will probably come up in the reading. And not only that, if you go and you get work done by two people like in this close proximity, at least in like 30 days of each other, it's going to be difficult for you to tell which of their work is actually working. I don't even recommend like just 30 days, right? Consider it as you would you're dating someone. That's what the process is about when you're trying to find an Ifá godparent. If you are dating one person, you're trying to figure out if this person is for me, you're not going to invite a whole lot of other people into that scenario. If your mindset is about marriage, if you're just casually dating, that's different. But if your mindset is about, I eventually want to get married, what do you need to do? You need to take your time to get to know one person at a time. And as you do, you'll figure out, hopefully pretty quickly, I would say within like 3 months or something, you will probably know that this person is or is not for me. It may be quicker. If it's sooner, then good for you. You can go ahead and transition before you develop like this long-standing connection or relationship or what have you with that individual. But take your time. It sometimes requires trial and error. You may not hit it the first go around. That would be ideal, but it just doesn't happen all the time. Like, think about it again. It's just like you are going to try to find a doctor or something. right? Like, let's say you move to a new city, you're trying to find a new doctor in that city. You're likely going to go with the recommendations that you get, maybe from your coworkers, maybe from from the list on your job, your insurance, or what have you, things like that. Or you might look online, so forth and so on, right? You choose a doctor, you go to that doctor. That person may or may not be the best fit for you. You don't stay there if they're not, okay? You instead keep on moving and find someone who works with you as an individual. And two is more than just, how much they're charging for the elbow. It's more than if their elbow even worked or not. It's also about, their personality, their level of professionalism, all of those things. You just feeling that energy, that vibe again, going back to those examples I just mentioned, especially something like dating, right? You are, no matter what, this person could treat you the best in the world and so forth and so on. But if you just don't have that love in your heart for that person, you're not going to move down that path to marry them. So think about this in the same way, because it is a very similar scenario. Because once you get an Ifá godparent, okay, this is the person that is going to build your icons and, create all those things for you. And this is the person you're going to consult with on a regular basis. And there's nothing against, or there's nothing to say, rather, that you cannot have more than one godparent, though that's not like necessary for one if that person is doing a good job and it's not really standard. But you can do that if you desire to do so, but I still don't recommend having a whole lot of hands in the pot, so to speak, when it comes to this notion of working with an Ifá godparent. Okay, guys. So that's the next step. And then the final step that I want to talk about is actually finding a suitable Ifá community, right? And so this part is probably one of the most challenging aspects of the whole process, because this is another question that I get quite a bit. Like, I cannot find the best Ifá community in the US. Even so, like, that's gonna occur in pockets, guys. Unfortunately, that's just how it goes. Like, you are going to have to seek that out. Usually it's going to come with the Ifá godparent that you choose, but you still may not really enjoy the community. You might love your godparent and just not care too much for the Ifá community that surrounds them. And so that could be a challenge. I'm not going to say it is going to be a challenge. It could be a challenge for you, because it's also about vibing with the individuals, and also, how it's set up and so forth and so on. A lot of time in the Americas too, when it comes to Ifá communities, you are usually going to have to pay for that dynamic. Okay, most of the Ifá communities, it's like a monthly fee or something like this in order to be a part of that group and to get the knowledge and the networking abilities and so forth and so on. People complain about this a lot, and I understand it, right? I had the same challenge when I came into it as well. Like, it was a little bit off-putting to me. Like, you actually got to pay to, be a part of a community in that way. And because I did come from a church background, right? So, you go to church, you want to, you don't have to, so forth and so on. But you keep it moving. You don't have to pay if you don't want to. You can pay your tithe, you can give offerings, so forth and so on. But with the Ifá scenario, it's a little bit different. And I get it. I do understand why it is that way. I am not bashing anybody by any means, because I know what it takes on the back end, especially doing what I do, to, gather resources and to provide all of those things for individuals. However, that can be a challenge, right? For somebody who doesn't have the financial means, for one, to pay for that, or who may just not, They just want to come in and out and get information here and there instead of having to show up on a weekly basis or a monthly basis, or however often that community meets in order to access it. I'm just letting you know that that is a common reality. It is not, you know, you don't have to do it if you don't want to. Even if you're working with a specific godparent, it's not a requirement for you to go down that path and join their community. But it can be greatly beneficial. Obviously, anytime we have suitable communities, it can be greatly beneficial in our journey in so many regards. So I encourage you, like definitely go down that path. In Nigeria, right? Because it's tradition and it's just, part of the community. Yes, they will expect people to give donations and things like that because the community is centered oftentimes around a temple that has to be maintained. But it's usually not the same notion of requiring somebody to pay a fee in order to come to the temple and learn more about the, Ifá, about like the Odu and the principles of Ifá and so forth and so on. But these are the things, these are my primary recommendations for you guys to take when it comes to starting your Ifá journey. Number one, you definitely want to educate yourself. You want to go ahead and connect with your ancestors. Get an Ifá reading when you're ready to do so. There is no rush. As I said before, and I harp on this just because so many people don't really know what an Ifá reading is. And I get this sometimes where people come and they get the reading and they don't understand the Ebo portion. So just be prepared for that, aspect of it 100%. Okay. And then also, you want to go ahead and find your suitable Ifá community. So that's the gist of it. Okay. I'm going to close out unless you guys have any questions. My Instagram people, you can catch this live on, not live, sorry. You can catch this after the session on YouTube if you want to. Yes, thank you for saying it. Definitely be prepared for the Ebo. Okay. I don't know why I don't understand what they're doing when they're researching Ifá divination. Sometimes maybe they just see the word divination, sounds interesting, and they just say, I'm going to go ahead and get a reading because they understand what divination is. But they just don't full on understand what Ifá divination is. But what I was saying is the Instagram people definitely jump on YouTube. Okay, you can catch it there. You can, Facebook, because I'm on Facebook as well right now. So you can definitely check it out on Facebook. YouTube is better for me. I'm a YouTube person. So definitely, guys, check out the full episode, especially for you guys who are just now coming in. And, if you have any questions, I'm definitely willing to stay here for a few more minutes and answer your questions. Any questions, guys? Okay, so check me out, Asanee44.com on the website. I have so many additional resources there about the Ifá tradition, and connect with me. The YouTube channel, I have a lot of videos and resources as well there. And I will see you later, guys. I bid you farewell. Thank you all for showing up. Ashe, have a very blessed and beautiful day and beyond.